That's kind of when I realized that I had some endurance in me. Because everything was still new to me in mountain biking. I just wanted to try any new event that sounded really exciting. And
Welcome to the Ruta series on Spartan Up Podcast with host Roy Wallack.
Today, we have the honor of being able to talk to one of the true legends of mountain biking who's also done La Ruta 7 or 8 times, Tinker Juarez.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Optimize, a service created by our friend Brian Johnson. If you want more wisdom in less time, go to optimize.me/SpartanUp. You can start a free 2-week trial there, and then use the code Spartan to save 10% off a monthly or annual membership.
So welcome, Tinker. Good to have you.
it's good talking to you, Roy. How's everything?
Great. Now, let me ask you, the first thing, apart from just all the stuff you've done and your longevity in the sport and all that, you are almost as well known for your hair. So that hair, how did it happen? How did you develop the dreadlock style? What were you thinking?
Well, to have dreadlocks, you don't really have to think much. One thing, you just let your hair just get into big wad of knots. I never had any dreams of having dreadlocks, and it just happened. I've always wore a hat. After riding, I take off my helmet, I put on a hat. So it maybe started that way, just because I never take off my hat, and my hair just started getting knotted up, and next thing you know, they were like looking like little, I don't know, dreads.
Ringlets.
And so
But
eventually
you don't have anybody work on your hair to make your hair look like that.
No, I don't. No, but I use some kind of some pretty heavy grease that I put for my hair. And that's I buy it at the store, so it ain't any kind of grease from no auto store. Yeah, it's just grease, and it just seemed like that's just what ended up happening. I was never a big fan of dreadlocks, but it's just how my hair ended up being, and now it's just who I am.
So tell people about the BMX world. When you came into it, you were known as king of the skate parks for a while, doing some of these crazy aerials. How did that career develop, and then how did that move into mountain biking?
Well, I started BMX around 1973, and I started racing at a local park in Hollyfield Park. There was just a a big hill, and me and my friends met after school, and we started doing just riding and jumping and all that kind of fun stuff. And then they started a bike race there, and then I started competing. Uh, and yeah. So
And that's in
kind of
Southern California. That's in the LA suburbs.
yeah. It's in the LA area,
Okay, which
where I
was the
grew up. I grew up.
hotbed of BMX. That's where BMX sort of
It kind
started.
of started, yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Norwalk, and the place where I was riding at was called Hollyfield Park. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was something to do, stay out of trouble, and started racing, and yeah, and it just the sport was growing, and I was yeah, racing every weekend before you knew it, and so I just kept on racing, and got a big factory team with Mongoose in 1976. Uh,
When did you start racing for money? When
right.
you've been a pro rider for a long time?
I have. When I started BMX, there wasn't even a pro class. So I was racing BMX. And in 1975, after racing from age 13 to 15, I was fast enough to race, and they had a pro class. And that's when I entered. It was in 1975. At that time, I was the youngest rider in BMX because it was a pro class. And I ended up entering it, and I started making money then. And then in 76, I got a contract from Mongoose, and was making pretty good money for me, in high school. So
What kind of money are we talking about?
uh, I'm not even really for sure, but it was actually pretty good money because we were making bonus money on our bikes. So when we would win on our bikes, at big nationals, we would make between like first place would be around 700, a little over 700, and then about 500 for second, and around, a little over 300 for third. And so there was probably at least between 7 and 10 nationals a year. So yeah, so I was able to make some pretty decent money just in bonuses and contingency money. And then I was also getting the salary, but I don't know how much I was making honestly back then. I would the only person who would know would be my mom, and and she's always been been there since the beginning.
Yeah, I see. I mean, no matter where I've been in the world at events that you're in, your mom is there. Your mom is your pit crew, your boss,
Yeah,
travel agent. She's everything.
yeah, she's
And
been
she doesn't
wonderful.
seem to age.
Yeah, I know. It's a great thing, and she's still doing really well. She's 80 now, and she's driving around and just doing normal things like like it's not no big deal.
So describe how you moved from BMX into mountain biking. Mountain biking was not even invented until BMX was already thriving. The first mountain bikers were really 79, 80. When did you start looking at mountain biking as a transition from BMX?
Right. Well, when I started BMX, it was a brand new sport. It was when the first race started, I started racing, and that's kind of when the sport happened. And then as 15 years into BMX, I got sponsored by Mongoose for about 6 years, and then after that, I had some smaller teams. And then around '86, I got mountain bike came in, and that's when it was a bike with a bunch of gears, and I thought, wow, this would be a cool bike to start riding, and so I started in '86 into mountain biking, and I because of my background in BMX and this new bike, mountain bike, they thought, well, this guy would do really well on this bike. So I felt really good about transferring over. It was at a good age. I felt felt pretty old at the time in
Yeah,
BMX, and so
how old were you when that happened? 86.
uh, yeah,
Because you're
I don't
born
know.
in 61, so you were 25 years old, which I guess
Yeah,
makes you pretty
I
old
yeah
for
I
a
got into mountain
BMXer.
bike. Yeah, I got into mountain biking around '86. So yeah, somewhere around that age. Um, so yeah, so I got right away picked up as a sponsor. Like some small sponsors at the time, and mountain biking just started taking off really quick. And so I was enjoying it. It was being in the sport. It was always new toys every year because the bike was just advancing so quickly.
Yeah, mountain biking. I mean, suddenly there was suspension, and suddenly it was dual suspension,
I
and
went through it all. Yeah, I
it
started
seemed like
from
you
yeah.
were you were a star pretty early in mountain biking, right?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's just that 15 years of BMX really helped me out in mountain biking to for my career to take off really well. So yeah, so it was a great time to switch over, and especially a new sport that was just ready, just taking off. So yeah, so my timing was good in both sports.
So you got sponsored by Klein in the late 80s, and
Yeah,
then it became Cannondale after that, when you've been there ever since.
right, right. Well, I started off with like General bikes, which was a really just a Taiwan bike when the mountain biking just started, and it was a General bicycle, and it was just a guy that was selling the bikes, Taiwan bikes in the U.S., and he knew who I was, and he picked me up, and I was wearing this General jersey on, and I was riding a titanium bike. And then before then, with mountain biking, magazines started coming out. I started riding a couple test bikes, and then I got actually picked up by like Alpine Star for a short while, and then it was Klein, and then Klein was a big leap from there. It was Cannondale in '94.
I remember a race that you did in 1988 called the Mountains to the Sea, or the Sea to the Mountains, one or the other.
Yeah, Desert to the Sea.
Yeah, and that's where I first heard the name Tinker Juarez.
Oh, okay.
and that was a long event, right? That was an all day 135-mile or something event.
Yeah, it was something like 150, close to, probably, yeah, around there. It was Desert to the Sea from Palm Springs to Dana Point. And I did that. That's kind of when I realized that I had some endurance in me. Because everything was so new to me in mountain biking. I just wanted to try any new event that sounded really exciting. And they were giving away a really beautiful Santana Tana bike at that time, and I ended up winning one.
Oh,
It was
really?
yeah, yeah. So I was battling it out with Bruce Spicer, which was a Canadian rider, and he was a really roadie type rider, but yeah, he was a good competitor, and but I ended up beating him for like 2 years in a row. Yeah, so it was yeah. I mean, for me, suffering through anything like that, I was into any kind of pain at that
So
time.
that proved to you had the long distance gene. And even though you didn't really need it you won 3 national championships in the mid 90s, right? I think I've got
Yeah, yeah, I
94.
did. In my early career in mountain biking, when I got with Cannondale, like in '94, I ended up winning the Northern National like 3 times.
Yeah.
Um, I
94, 95, 98.
Yeah, I don't know exact years, but it was 3 times, and I came close to winning before, but I flatted out on maybe one of the races that counted for points and things like that. But it was a good battle. I mean, it was always battling with like Ned Overend, John Tomax, and there was just like a heap of, a lot of other
Yeah,
fast guys too
really
at
the
the time.
glory years of mountain biking when it
What's
was
that?
the glory years of mountain biking when the money
Yeah,
was
it
so
was. It
huge and
was.
the
Yeah,
crowds were incredible. It was amazing.
yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, exactly. And
Then you
over
made the
Cannondale.
Olympic team in 96
Yep.
and the Olympic team in 2000.
Yeah.
So your
I think it was a
resume
great, yeah, it was a great feeling to make the Olympic team in '96 because the mountain biking was introduced into the Olympics in '96. And at that time, to make it on the team, but also to make it as the top rider. So I really was on fire at that time in '96.
So in
And
2000, you make the team again.
yeah, yeah,
In
I did make the team
Is that
again.
Sydney?
What's that?
Is that the Sydney in
Yeah,
Australia?
that was in
Something?
Sydney too, and it was a much tougher battle. Of course, everybody knew after '96 that they had a chance to do it in 2000, 4 years later, and I had a good battle. Steve Larson was one of my competitors, and we were just, it was kind of just, it was at the very end where it came down to, who was going to make the team, and I took it from him, and I think it was Don Myra that might have made the second rider. They took 2 riders in both Olympics in the first and yeah, in '96 and then in 2000.
How'd you do in those games? Those
Uh, Not so well. I mean, I tried my best, as it was probably because I was young at that time, and it was such a big event. All my events seemed big, but this was just like the biggest thing, that you could imagine. And representing the USA was a big issue. So yeah, it was just tough. But I finished like in '96, like 19th or 18th or 19th, but I was running really good. I think I went too fast in the early part of the race. I was in the top 10. I think is like as good as eighth place, but I dropped from like eighth place all the way up to like 19th. So I kind of just blew too many matches.
Well, maybe the events were too short for you because
Yeah,
and you were still too young, because even
yeah,
2000, you were 39 years old and made your second Olympic team. But then after
right.
that, you went to way longer distances, it seems like in the 2000s. You
You're
started
right.
doing 24-hour racing started up. And how did you did you remember back when you did the Desert to the Sea race and how well you did in the super long stuff and decide, hey, that's my thing, I should try it? I'm over 40.
Uh, it was definitely a good mental thing to build up. I mean, I knew that this sport was a brand new sport, so I was excited about challenging myself to do anything in mountain biking. and 24 hours was really a big deal. It was like a lot of races happening during the year, and there were, there was some big prize money, pretty nice prize money, and so yeah, I gave it a try, and I was really, really enjoying it. I was actually racing about 4 or 5 24 hours a year, which it was quite a bit.
And winning, right?
Yeah, I did.
I've got down here you won 4 24-hour solos almost in a row, 2001, 2, 3, and 4. Tell you what, this is a good time to take a quick break.
All right.
We're going to return in a second episode that people can pick up after this. So
Okay.
we'll see you then.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Optimize, a service created by our friend Brian Johnson. If you want more wisdom in less time, go to optimize.me/SpartanUp. You can start a free 2-week trial there, and then use the code SPARTAN to save 10% off a monthly or annual membership.